Hello and welcome to the show. This is a series where we get you excited about heading back into New South Wales and taking some photos. Today on the show we have Daniel Boud. Daniel, welcome.
Hi, how you going?
Yeah, great. Thanks, mate. Look, you're an arts and culture photographer who's been working in the industry for over 15 years. You've worked with big clients like Sydney Opera House, Destination New South Wales. You've shot Cate Blanchett, Flume, the Australian Ballet. What is it about Sydney that you love so much?
The lifestyle, beaches, sun, compared to so many other cities where we're kind of in a concrete jungle. Sydney's not like that at all. And obviously being in the arts world, I personally think it's got a pretty thriving arts community. The worlds I inhabit from the sort of arts and culture perspective tend to be a lot more urban, but our perspective of Sydney is not always very urban. And sometimes it is fun to clash those worlds up, sort of take things that are not considered ocean kind of coastal things to take them to those spaces.
All right, well, let's get straight into your photography. This first shot with the Australian Ballet, what can you tell me about this?
This was taken to promote the on-sale date for Swan Lake coming to Sydney. The Australian Ballet were going to perform Swan Lake at Sydney Opera House, and as a sort of media PR stunt, they decided to put 4 of their dancers on a barge in Sydney Harbour to create kind of a striking image to get media pickup to promote that Swan Lake season.
Really, really beautiful shot, mate. How have you achieved the effect of bringing the background quite close to the dancers in the foreground?
I think I used a 200mm lens, and that compresses these elements together. So the Opera House looms really large in the background of this picture, and the dancers look closer to the Opera House than they actually were.
How would you describe the cultural significance of the Opera House to the city?
The Opera House to me is a symbol of Sydney at its best, where it put artistic excellence and stuff that wasn't easy, wasn't cheap, wasn't popular, and just pushed it through to create something beautiful and artistically authentic. It's like Sydney get beaten up a lot for sometimes just relying on its harbour and not its creativity, but the Sydney Opera House is like where Sydney shines. It's like just the building of that building is a story of creativity and artistry winning over practicality and so many other things. So it just symbolizes to me a beautiful story of culture being allowed to win the day. But also it's just like a hub of so much cool stuff in Sydney. You've got your sort of like high culture, like your ballet and the opera, but you've got like events for kids. They're really champion First Nations programming. They've got like talks and ideas and podcasts. And it's just like they just have become a real hub of so much cool stuff in Sydney. And it's just, I can't believe I get to work with them to document all that stuff.
This is not the first time you've worked with the Australian Ballet. What can you tell me about this photo of the dancers in the pool?
We arrived and the pool was empty, and I think everyone was freaking out for about 20 minutes as we're like, oh God, this is not the shot we anticipated. But then we kind of realized, oh wait, this could be even better because we can get the dancers like in the pool, and it gives us a bit more versatility, and it becomes a more unique photo than just them on the edge of the pool. They can actually be inside the pool.
Well, if it wasn't intended, I think you made it look great. What can you tell us about this next shot at Baranga for the Faces of Fashion?
This is for the New South Wales Faces of Fashion, which is a photograph I've taken for Destination New South Wales in the lead up to Fashion Week. I think we've done about 5 of them now. So yeah, a few weeks before Fashion Week, we bring together all these people who work in the fashion industry. There's models, designers, people who work in fashion media, photographers, hair stylists, makeup artists. It's just pulling together the kind of who's who of the fashion industry for this big photograph of them all in an iconic Sydney location.
A lot of your work is taken in spots that the public don't usually have access to, or you get given things like a barge in front of the Sydney Opera House. But this shot's different, isn't it? Anyone can go down here and shoot.
Yeah, this is just down by the water at Baranga Reserve, which is open to public anytime. Yeah, anyone can take a picture here. It's a kind of a hidden gem of Sydney, I think. Not a lot of people kind of realize that there's this incredible public park at Baranga, and it's got this waterfront section with the sandstone steps. It's got incredible native plants and trees and things like that. Yeah, it's a really gorgeous little spot.
Was this shot taken early in the morning?
From memory, it's just probably about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. When we got to the location, it was pitch black. So we had to sort of set up and then work quite quickly to set everything up and get our talent in place quite quickly as well, because A, they don't have a lot of time, and B, the light changes so quickly. After a certain time, it's going to get not as pretty as this.
As you said before, you've shot the faces of fashion for 5 years now. There's another shot I want to talk about, this one down an iceberg.
Yeah, the year before this one, actually no, it was probably 2 years before, we did the same setup at Bondi Icebergs. So practically it worked similarly. We shot at the crack of dawn. In the iceberg shot, I feel like we were super lucky. Like the sun was just rising over the group, and the shot where we ended up using, I think there's just like a pop of the sun coming over the shoulder, and so the light was kind of magic down there. It was a beautiful still morning. Like the Baranga shot, I still had to put a lot of light in there because otherwise the subjects would just be silhouettes. But yeah, the iceberg shot was another special spot we were able to do this picture at.
All right, so your next shot, I'm really excited to talk about this. What was this shot for?
This was shot for Sydney Opera House to promote dance rights, which is a First Nations dance competition that they hold on the forecourt of Sydney Opera House. And we shot this a few days before it started. At the crack of dawn, there's a theme here. Everything was single photos at the crack of dawn. Yeah, I was thankfully given permission to go up on top of the sails of the Sydney Opera House to photograph these two dancers who are going to be performing at Dance Rights.
Tell me what it's like getting to the top of the Opera House.
To get on top of the Sydney Opera House is a huge deal. Like I had to go to a physiotherapist to make sure I had to pass a physical because to get up on top of the sails it's a workout. You have to like crawl through tiny little crawl spaces. You kind of can't see it in the photo, but the girls there actually have safety harnesses underneath their dresses. So it's a whole ordeal getting up there. But the fact that we shot at the crack of dawn made the picture. Like these photos, even 5 minutes later, don't look half as good just because this sort of soft, eerie calm that you get at the very early morning is just, it's very unique.
There's so much cultural significance in this photo as well. What does it say for you, and what were you trying to convey?
For this shot, we obviously two First Nations dancers. For this shot, we also had there's a version of it where they're holding the Aboriginal flag, and that felt, with flags, there's a sort of significance to like putting a flag in the sand and sort of like claiming the land, and to have these two young dancers come up here waving the Aboriginal flag on top of Sydney's most famous icon, to me kind of felt like we're taking it back. It was like this amazing gesture of they've got the power again. And also it worked for what Dance Rights is, which is where all these First Nations dancers can come together and take over Sydney Opera House and have face for them again. And it was just like a real special moment and image to be a part of.
How do you compose a shot like this? Obviously it looks really, really narrow there, so you can't really move around. The boat coming through is a nice touch, but how are you balancing this shot?
I'm very fortunate, got great subject matter, great location, and I'm trying to figure out the balance between all the elements. I have to show the sails so people know that we're on top of Sydney Opera House, but I can't get too far back because then the dancers become too small in frame. I want to get the bridge to kind of, again, situate us. And then, the ferry coming through is just like a real cherry on the cake sort of moment to kind of really sell Sydney Harbour in the picture.
Okay, and if we were to talk about just the background, what is it about a blue ocean and a red morning sky that looks so nice?
To be honest, I think shooting at this time of day also looks great in pictures in some ways is because so few people are up at this time of the morning. And so when people look at it, they're like, oh, wow, that looks amazing. And it's like, yeah, because you're always in bed when it looks like this. So that's, I think, why it looks so good is because people don't normally see it looking like this. They only see it in the blazing sun or in overcast skies. And it's just like, it just kind of opens people's eyes a bit more because like, wow, I've never seen it like that. And it's like, yeah, that's what it's like at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it happens every day.
I know, you just got to set that alarm clock a bit earlier and you can experience it for yourself.
In your everyday life, are you constantly looking out for locations in Sydney?
I am. It's like, it's not a conscious thing, but sometimes I'll be taking my kids for a walk and all of a sudden I'll be looking around and be like, oh, hold on, it's a really beautiful background, or oh, that's a nice wall, or oh, I've not realized that was here before. So yeah, even just in everyday life, I'm just like always thinking about spots that I can use for photos at another time.
Talking about all these different locations that you shoot, what are your top locations in Sydney?
There's different ways you can think about it. Like if you're thinking from a tourist perspective, just wanting to get like the tourist money shot, it's hard to go past Mrs. Macquarie's chair because you can get to this outcrop there, which you just look straight over the harbour, Sydney Opera House, Harbour Bridge. It's just like a postcard right there. So if that's what you want out of a Sydney shot, like that's where you're going to get your money shot. As a local, like I'm not drawn to that sort of perspective so much. I love Carriageworks. It's just there's lots of like urban decay there and so many interesting textures. That's a really awesome spot to shoot. There's a spot not far from me called Paddington Reservoir, which is a reservoir. Like it used to just be a concrete bunker, and they opened it up to the general public and made a park out of it. And it's just these columns, and they've put all this beautiful greenery in there, and you get this nice mixture of shade and daylight, and that's like a little hidden gem. I love Cooper Park near me, which is sort of in the little kind of canyon, I guess, around sort of Bellevue Hill and Double Bay. And honestly, it's in the heart of the city. It feels like you're in a tropical rainforest. It's just amazing ponds and ferns. It's just amazing natural spot.
All right, Daniel, let's get on to your final photo. I'm going to go back to your roots, something that's close to me, live music photography.
This is Florence and the Machine's recent tour to Sydney. This is her performing at the Domain to 20,000 odd people, I think. I was fortunate enough to be shooting the show for her, so I had stage access. So this is quite a unique perspective that most people don't get to see, and most photographers don't get to shoot because, I can get the performer and the audience in the same frame.
Yeah, I love this photo, Dan. What is it about this location that's so special?
The Domain is awesome because you could get 20,000 people and then a backdrop of the city. Like if you just get they're right in the heart of the city. And I can't think of many other locations, outdoor festival locations that are in the heart of a city like that. You can't see it in this shot, but so many other times I shoot the Domain, it's sort of like you sort of show that city skyline behind the crowd, and it is a pretty unique perspective.
People are always taking photos of their favorite band. What are the key elements of a good live music shot?
The money shot of taking a live shot is getting the artist, the audience, and the venue in the same frame. If you can do that, that is the best live music shot you can do because that's got all the elements in the one shot. It's very hard. You've got to have the access. You pretty much have to be on stage or very side of stage to get that. I love seeing the audience in the frame. Like you can kind of see the excitable fans in the front row there. And to me, that's in some ways just as important as the performer is to see the reaction from the crowd. To get that access is super important to me to be able to nail that money shot.
This was a one-off show that you did for Florence and the Machine, but you've shot Laneway Festival for years now, haven't you?
I have. I've shot, I think every time Laneway's been in Sydney, I've photographed it, which is over 10 years now. And in recent years, I've actually been fortunate enough to be their touring national photographer. So I get to travel with the festival and photograph it in all of the Australian cities that it plays.
What's special about the Sydney leg of the festival?
Again, the venue is really awesome. That it's actually been in 3 different venues in Sydney now. It started in the heart of the city. It played in a literal laneway in what was the basement. I think it's now Mary's Underground in the city. And it kind of outgrew that space. And then it moved to Sydney College of the Arts in Rozelle, which is also a stunning venue, like on a beautiful green natural amphitheatre and then some of the other stages are around Sydney College of the Arts. And now it's outgrown that venue, and now it's in the Domain, which, as I've already explained, is just this awesome venue right in the heart of the city. Beautiful green open space, but just right in the city. So the venues are definitely a part of what makes that festival really special.
All right, well, in wrapping this interview up, obviously you're a very Sydney-centric person. You've given us your best tips on places to shoot. What would be your tips for someone who's coming to the city and how they could navigate it?
Ask a local. I know it's old school, but talk to someone who lives there is going to get you the inside word. But do that Instagram research as well. Look at the locations on Instagram and then find spots that other people have shot at and take inspiration from that.
And start the day with a sunrise shoot.
That's the way.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mitch.